The morning they rolled up on my driveway, I was still halfway through my first cup of coffee. Blue and red lights bouncing off my garage door, two patrol cruisers idling in front of my house, my mud-caked F-250 sitting squarely on my own concrete, and my neighbor Paige Norwood on the sidewalk with her arms folded, chin lifted, wearing that satisfied little smirk of someone who thinks they've already won before the conversation even starts. One of the deputies stepped out, and before he could say a word, Paige Norwood jabbed her finger toward me and my truck and snapped, "I pay your salary. Officer, make him move it, or arrest him." Right there, in that split second, I understood this wasn't about a vehicle or aesthetics or community standards. This was about control, ego, and a woman who'd gotten used to everyone around here folding the second she raised her voice. What she didn't know, what she couldn't possibly have factored into her little suburban power fantasy, was that I'm Graham Whitaker, Lieutenant Colonel in the U.S. Army Intelligence Corps, 23 years taking apart threats far more dangerous than a wannabe HOA queen with a spreadsheet and a grudge. So yeah, I was not the guy to pick for a soft target. We'd only been in Maple Ridge Hollow, a 40-something home subdivision tucked in the hills outside Summit Falls, Wyoming, for a few months. After a lifetime of base housing and rotating deployments, for acres, pine trees, and silence felt like winning the lottery. My wife Elena, an ICU nurse at St. Augustine Medical Center, was finally off the deployment merry-go-round with me. Our son was grinding through Liberty Ridge Military Academy. Our daughter buried in engineering classes at Red Crest Institute of Technology. This was supposed to be the calm chapter. The neighborhood had what they called a voluntary HOA, the Maple Ridge Neighborhood Council. On paper, it sounded harmless. Block parties, a newsletter, some passive-aggressive emails about trash cans. The president, Harold Sims, was a retired insurance guy who apologized every time he spoke. The real power, everybody quietly agreed, was the vice president, Paige Norwood. She was 50-something, no kids, married to real estate attorney Trevor Norwood, lived in the corner lot palace with razor-straight hedges, chemically perfect lawn, and outdoor lighting that looked like an upscale resort. Every evening, she'd do patrols, heels ticking on the asphalt, clipboard in hand, eyes scanning for violations that didn't technically exist. 2 weeks after we moved in, she turned up with a welcome packet and a weaponized smile. "Just to be helpful," she said, pointing at a section she'd highlighted. Vehicles over 6,000 pounds should be stored inside a garage or behind the fence line. My truck weighs 6,400. I looked up. She was still smiling. I nodded, thanked her, closed the door. Elena watched from the kitchen and muttered, "She's going to be a problem." I tried to shrug it off. Big mistake. Fast forward. I come back from a reserve training weekend, covered in mud. Truck looks like it crawled out of a battlefield. I park on my driveway, 10, 12 feet back from the street, fully on my land. Sunday, 7 a.m., Paige Norwood bangs on the door, hard. I answer mid-sip, coffee in hand. She points like my truck is a dead animal. "That thing needs to be moved. It's an eyesore." I say calm, "It's on my property, ma'am. I'll wash it this afternoon." Her face goes scarlet, and she spits. "We'll see about that." Heels snapping double time back to her house. Next morning, 6:47 a.m., here come the cruisers. Deputy Nolan Briggs steps up, gives my Army PT shirt and the decal on my truck a quick glance, and I can see the situation already deflating behind his eyes. "Morning, sir," he says, just doing his job. "We got a call about a vehicle blocking access." He looks at my truck, looks at the wide-open road, looks back at me. He knows. "On my driveway," I reply, still polite. He walks the property line, then calls over to Paige Norwood, who's standing there like a prosecutor waiting for a verdict. "Ma'am, this truck is entirely on private property. There's no violation." She snaps back that she wants a report filed, that I'm refusing to follow community covenants. He tells her they'll mark the call unfounded and clears out. I figured maybe that would end it. Instead, it was just the opening move. That night, an email lands from Harold Sims, subject line dressed in HOA politeness. Courtesy reminder about driveway visibility. He CCs the entire list of homeowners, parrots language about aesthetics and voluntary compliance, clearly written under Paige Norwood's watchful eye. Elena leans over my shoulder, reads it, and says she's building a trail. So I reply all with a short, neutral message, attach my plat map. Note there's no enforceable covenant on file with Redstone County, and leave it at that. The next morning, an orange traffic cone appears at the edge of my driveway. Not mine. Security footage shows Trevor Norwood hopping out of his Lexus at 11 p.m., dropping it, and driving off. I return it to their porch with a note. Believe you dropped this. Gee. Elena sighs. You're poking the bear. I answer. Bear poked first. Soon after, a county truck pulls up. Code Officer Calvin Ortiz climbs out with that look of a man who's seen every petty neighbor feud in the book. Got a complaint about unpermitted grading, he says. I haven't touched the land. He walks the property, shakes his head. This is the 5th bogus call from this street this month, he mutters. Over coffee on the porch, he quietly tells me, you can order your own property complaint report from the county. $15, every call logged. Good ammunition if this turns into harassment. I file the request that afternoon. Then the anonymous note hits my mailbox. Plain paper, no stamp, typed message telling military types to go back to base housing and stop acting above the rules. It smells faintly like the very expensive lavender hand lotion Paige Norwood wears, the one you smell 5 seconds before she arrives anywhere. Elena calls it funeral home perfume. I slide the letter into a plastic sleeve and add it to my growing folder of evidence. And when Elena comes home from a brutal ICU night shift at St. Augustine Medical Center in tears, because some anonymous caller reported that an overnight nurse matching her description was showing up drunk, and the hospital had to pull her off the floor and test her, even though she blew clean in minutes, that's when something in me switches. She went after my job, Elena says quietly, voice shaking. She tried to put a target on my back at the hospital. I've seen enough. Time to treat this like an operation. I call an old JAG friend, Major Lila Camden, lay out the story. She tells me to file a harassment report with the Redstone County Sheriff's Office, keep documenting, and check the HOA's nonprofit filings. You'd be amazed, she says, how many little neighborhood tyrants treat HOA funds like a private account. I submit a formal harassment complaint to Deputy Nolan Briggs, then pay the fee to get 18 months of Maple Ridge Neighborhood Council's financials. That's when the pattern starts to really show itself. The first real crack in Paige Norwood's armor shows up at an emergency HOA meeting she bullies Harold Sims into calling. She gives 24 hours notice, hoping workers and young families can't come. 19 neighbors still show. Lights flicker in the community room. The coffee tastes like burnt motor oil, and Paige Norwood stands at the front with a slideshow cued on Harold's ancient laptop. For 15 minutes, she projects photos of my truck like evidence at a crime scene. Front angle, side angle, zoomed in on mud splatter, even shots of my security cameras. She talks about protecting values and stopping commercial encroachment. Then Andre Collins, our mail carrier neighbor, raises his hand from the middle row. Why are we doing all this over one guy's truck in his own driveway? He asks, calm but firm. Feels personal. Paige Norwood's smile goes brittle. Because people like him don't respect community standards, she says. You could hear the temperature in the room drop. People like him. Nobody misses the tone. Not when she's already complained about the Latino family down the street, called the disabled vet's work van junk, and filed noise complaints against Andre Collins for listening to public radio. The meeting implodes. Harold sputters something about needing to review bylaws and adjourns. As folks shuffle out, Paige hisses at me. You think rank makes you untouchable. I just smile and walk away. That night, the HOA financial packet finally lands in my mailbox. At the kitchen table, under the soft hum of the fridge, Elena and I go line by line. 18 months of expenses, badly stapled, cheap paper. 8+ grand in administrative expenses, no detail. One line item, $1, $300 to Norwood and Associates Legal Services for covenant review. Elena, who's managed ICU budgets for years, circles 3 entries in red. This is self-dealing, she says. Nonprofits can't quietly funnel money to board members' families without disclosure and a vote. A quick check of the posted minutes? No vote. No disclosure. I feel that quiet, cold satisfaction you get when the intel finally lines up. A few days later, Andre Collins finds me at the mailbox. He tells me Paige has tried to force Walter Hayes, a 71-year-old Korean War vet, to remove his memorial flagpole. She called animal control on the Lopez family's beagle 3 times. She's harassed Renee Porter, a teacher and single mom, over her daughter's trampoline. You build something to push back, Andre says. I'm in. So we meet, one Saturday morning. Me, Elena, Andre Collins, Renee Porter, and Walter Hayes, around our kitchen table. We lay out the pattern: selective enforcement, bogus complaints, financial irregularities, and now attacks on Elena's job. It stops being a personal feud and becomes a mission. The plan is simple and legal. File a complaint with the State Community Association Registry over the shady finances. Use the bylaws, 20% of homeowners, to petition for a special meeting to recall the board. Build a factual dossier, timeline, screenshots, complaint logs, financial entries, statements. Invite the local paper, the Maple Herald, to observe. While we gather signatures, 11 out of 47, more than enough. Paige Norwood turns the dial to crazy. One icy morning at 5:30, I step onto the porch and immediately know something's wrong. My truck is sitting low. All 4 tires are slashed, clean cuts in the sidewalls. Security footage shows a hooded figure at 2:17 a.m., careful about camera angles, height and gait matching Paige a little too well, but not clear enough to stand up in court. Deputy Nolan Briggs comes out, takes photos, watches the footage, and says exactly what I expected. You're close, but you need more. The more arrives in the form of a smear campaign. A brand new Facebook account, Concerned Maple Resident, starts posting in the neighborhood group about a dangerous ex-military neighbor with violent tendencies and creepy cameras watching kids. No name, but there's only one person it could be. People share it, react, whisper. Renee Porter screenshots everything before the posts vanish. My son at Liberty Ridge Military Academy calls that night, voice tight. Dad, someone tagged me in a post about you being dangerous. What's going on? I tell him the truth. About manipulation, about bullies, about documentation. He's quiet for a second, then says, You always told me the way we respond to people like that matters more than what they say. It hits harder than any insult Paige could throw. Meanwhile, our petition triggers a special meeting set by Harold Sims for a Thursday night. 2 days before, an email goes out. Meeting postponed indefinitely due to potential legal concerns. I call Harold. He admits Paige and Trevor scared him with talk of lawsuits. Harold, I say, voice low but firm. Your own bylaws say you must hold a special meeting within 14 days of a valid petition. We have over 20%. If you don't, homeowners can sue the board for breach of duty. I already have counsel. Bluff? A little. Did he know that? Not at all. He reschedules on the spot. Thursday, 7 p.m., Community Center. Now there's no going back. That Thursday, the parking lot looks like a town hall in a movie. Cars everywhere. People lingering in clusters, low voices, folded arms. Inside, the community room smells like old coffee and floor wax. Metal chairs scrape. Phones come out. Cameras ready. At the front, Paige Norwood has set up neat stacks of her own packets on a table, printed on thick paper with colored tabs, overprepared and overcompensating. She's in a navy blazer, pearls, hair immaculate. Trevor Norwood sits beside her, expensive suit, distant eyes. In the back, Deputy Nolan Briggs stands in uniform. I requested a deputy presence for safety, which is also code for, I want a neutral witness. Reporter from the Maple Herald, Julia Finch, sits with a notepad and recorder. Harold Sims bangs a tiny gavel, hands trembling. He reads the procedural script, then gives Paige the floor to speak first as the board representative. She launches into a carefully scripted monologue about thankless volunteer work and newcomers who don't respect the culture of Maple Ridge Hollow. It's polished, emotional, pure spin. She paints herself as a guardian of values, me as an aggressor. A few heads nod, but most are just watching. Then Andre Collins stands up, voice cutting clean through her speech. Point of order, he says. We're not here because of culture. We're here because board members have been abusing their positions, and people are tired. Harold swallows, looks at me. Colonel Whitaker, you requested this meeting. You have the floor. I walk to the front carrying a box of spiral-bound dossiers. Heartbeat steady, breath controlled. The same feeling I've had before briefings that could change an entire operation. I start handing out copies, row by row. Timeline, complaint log, screenshots, financial excerpts from the Maple Ridge Neighborhood Council, copies of the harassment report with the Redstone County Sheriff's Office. My name is Graham Whitaker. I say, standing where everyone can see me. I'm a lieutenant colonel in the U.S. Army Intelligence Corps, currently reserve. I moved here because I wanted what you all want. Quiet, safety, a place for my wife Elena to decompress after ICU shifts, and for my kids to come home to. I click the projector remote. Slide 1. A clean timeline of incidents. I walk them through it. The highlighted welcome packet. The first police call. Code enforcement complaints. The anonymous note. The report to St. Augustine Medical Center that nearly derailed Elena's career. The slash tires. The fake Facebook profile. Each with dates, documentation, and screenshots. This isn't miscommunication, I say quietly. This is targeted harassment. Next slide. 4 names. Andre Collins, Renee Porter, Walter Hayes, the Lopez family. Each with a short summary of what Page and the board did to them. Noise complaints, animal control weaponized, pressure over flagpoles and trampolines. Then we flip to the money. On the screen, $8,400 in vaguely labeled administrative expenses and the payment to Norwood and Associates Legal Services. Next to it, a quote from the state's nonprofit rules about conflict of interest and required votes. These entries appear nowhere in the minutes. I say, no disclosed vote, no record. The State Community Association Registry received a formal complaint this morning with copies of these records. They've already acknowledged receipt and will be auditing your books. Page's voice goes shrill. This is a smear job. This is slander. Trevor doesn't back her up. He stares at the line item with his firm's name on it and whispers, Page, you didn't tell the board? The room is dead silent. You can feel the mood shift, like watching a storm front roll in. We are not here to scream at each other. I say, keeping my tone measured. We're here to decide if we want an HOA that serves the community or one that serves the ego of whoever holds the gavel. I lay out our motion. Recall the current board, effective immediately, hold new elections within 30 days, and adopt a transparency policy requiring online posting of minutes and budgets. A woman I barely know raises her hand from the third row. I second the motion, she says. Harold looks like he might faint, but he calls the vote. All in favor of recalling the current board. Hands go up. Row after row. I count silently. 38 out of 41 present. It isn't close. Paige Norwood stands so fast her chair tips. She snatches her purse, hisses something at Trevor, and storms out. The door slams behind her, loud, metallic, final. Trevor follows a beat later, slower, shoulders slumped. The audit comes back a few weeks later exactly how we expected. The state finds mismanaged funds, requires Paige and Trevor to reimburse the association, refers the case to local prosecutors for possible misdemeanor charges. Their house goes on the market, listed in a rush. They sell under asking to get out before the foreclosure on their quiet tax liens catches up. One day, their windows are dark, the lawn overgrown, and then a moving truck arrives and they're gone. The new board, Andre Collins as president, Renee Porter treasurer, Walter Hayes secretary, kills the petty fines and shifts the HOA's energy toward actual community. Real neighborhood watch for safety, not spying. Block barbecues where nobody measures grass height. A small scholarship fund, the Maple Ridge Unity Grant, for kids heading into service, teaching, nursing, military, social work. I refuse a board seat. I tell them I've spent enough of my life in command. I just want to drink coffee on my porch, watch the sun hit the pines, and not think about bylaws. They laugh and let me be. Months later, I'm at a pancake fundraiser flipping batter while Elena pours coffee and kids chase a soccer ball. The air smells like syrup, smoke, and cut grass. It feels like the neighborhood we thought we were buying into in the first place. When my son graduates from Liberty Ridge Military Academy, he pulls me aside in his dress uniform and says, "Remember that neighbor who tried to ruin your reputation online? I watched what you did with her. You didn't shout, you didn't hit back wild. You built a case and let the truth stand." I'm taking that with me. That, more than any recall vote, feels like the real win. Back home, there's a new couple in Paige's old house. Baby toys in the yard. No one counting how many times my truck sits in the driveway. It's just a vehicle again, the way it always should have been. And as I sit on my porch in the evenings, listening to distant laughter and the hum of normal life, I can't help but wonder. When someone uses tiny rules as weapons to control everyone around them, when is it enough to ignore them? And when do we owe it to ourselves and our neighbors to stand up, push back, and say, no more? You tell me, where's the line between keeping the peace and fighting for justice in your own front yard?